Good morning to those that are here, and greetings to those that are connected online or in different zones. But in any case, welcome to this parallel session. My name is Divine Njie, and I am the Deputy Director of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, FAO, the Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Division based in Rome. I am very, very delighted to be here with you today in this dynamic and forward-looking space created by the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. On behalf of FAO and the UN Environment Program, UNEP, co-organizers of this event, I warmly welcome you to today's parallel session on the subject of food loss and waste in the urban areas. We will start with a very short video which summarizes 10 years of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Video, please.
Excellencies and colleagues, it's a pleasure to be with you today at this important event on food loss and waste held under Milan Urban Food Policy Pact of Global Forum. My name is Máximo Torero. I am the Chief Economist of FAO. Let me begin by congratulating the Mayor of Milan, the Secretariat of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and all the cities, metropolitan, intermediary, and smaller towns across the rural-urban continuum that are part of this pioneering network driving urban food system transformation. I would also like to extend my appreciation to our partners, UNEP, the University of Bologna, ICLEI, the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, Let's Food, the World Bank, and the CIGEAM, whose collaboration demonstrates our shared commitment to a more efficient, resilient, and sustainable agri-food systems. Reducing food loss and waste, as all of you know, is one of the most impactful levers to transform agri-food systems. Each year, around 13.2% of food is lost between harvest and wholesale, and an additional 19% is wasted at the retail consumer levels. Together, this represents nearly 1/3 of all food produced globally, with an estimated $1 trillion on annual economic losses and 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. This, colleagues, is unacceptable. Addressing food loss and waste delivers multiple benefits, from reducing greenhouse gas emissions and protecting natural resources to improving food security and nutrition, when today we have 673 million people in hunger. It also creates green jobs and stimulates inclusive growth. In short, cutting food loss and waste accelerates progress towards all SDGs and for sure contributes to the transformation of the agri-food systems. So the question is, what can we do together? First, we need a robust evidence to guide action. FAO tracks global food losses through the Food Loss Index, while UNEP monitors food waste through the Food Waste Index, both essential to the SDG 12.3 monitoring system. FAO also works with countries to measure losses where they occur and where in the value chain they are happening. And for this, we use science-based methods such as the Food Loss Waste Analytical Framework and developing innovative tools for data collection. For instance, the Food Loss App, the FLAPP, gathers real-time geo-reference data directly from producers to identify where and why losses occur, allowing together interventions. It also identifies solutions through the problems, and these are scientific solutions of low cost and high cost presented through videos. Similarly, OptiWaste monitors food waste in the food service establishments, from schools to restaurants and hotels, providing evidence to design effective prevention and valorization strategies. Second, data alone is not enough. We need coordinated action across governments, the private sector, civil society, academia, local communities, and of course, the municipalities. FAO is supporting cities to develop food loss waste action plans integrated into national policies. And for example, FAO, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, and Let's Foods are helping Amman to design a food loss and waste action plan, and governance mechanisms align with Jordan's National Food Security Action Plan and the National Food Loss and Waste Committee. This is vital because multi-stakeholder platforms foster inclusive decision-making, equitable power sharing, and contest specific solutions, ensuring that action plans are technically sound and socially accepted. Third, FAO is also working with countries and municipalities to implement evidence-based solutions. We understand through the data system that we have today, through the Food Laws app, where in the value chain the problems are, and therefore we can put solutions to it. This includes, for example, improving cold value chains, upgrading storage and processing facilities, promoting packaging innovations and extension life, and scaling up circular economy approaches that convert unavoidable waste into energy, feed, or compost. We are also supporting sustainable power procurement policies, especially in schools where opti-waste is being used to minimize the waste in school meal programs, and running awareness campaigns that drive behavioral change. But for this, the data is crucial because it gives us a light. For example, we normally expect or assume that most of the losses occur post-harvest, and what we have found in many of the countries, developing countries, is that losses occur pre-harvest or during the processing stage. This allows us to bring better solutions and target the solutions to the real problem. In all these efforts, mayors and local authorities are key enablers. They are closest to communities and engage producers, traders, hospitality sectors, and consumers directly. Yet, they are often face fiscal, administrative, and technical barriers, which we must help them to overcome through financing, capacity development, and partnerships. This is why FAO has facilitated peer learning exchanges on food loss and waste with the Milan Pact and Let's Food, which have proven effective in building political commitment, sharing solutions, and inspiring replication at the scale. Building on these experiences, the Food is Never Waste Coalition, called by FAO under the 2021 UN Food System Summit, has become the global platform for joint action. It connects governments, cities, businesses, and research institutions to exchange best practices, mobilize investment, and strengthen national and local food loss and waste strategies. The time has come to reinvigorate this alliance. Through the Food is Never Waste Coalition, let us define a coordinated global roadmap, one that secures every city and town has the policies, resources, and technical capacities to reduce food loss and waste and to contribute meaningfully to the global fight against hunger and to what we will be facing in terms of extreme weather events. I wish you all a productive and inspiring discussion today, and I hope together we can move towards achieving good food for all for today and tomorrow, where the reduction of food loss and waste will be central. Thank you very much, and it was a great pleasure to be with you today.
Okay, so those were opening remarks from Mr. Maximo Torero, the chief economist of FAO. So I don't know whether the video from the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact is ready, and we can play that. Is that fine? Okay. Okay. All right. So we have a technical glitch, and but just so to give you a little bit of the technical setting, so we are well prepared. There was that video that we had issues for watching. It was summarizing 10 years of the actions that have been carried on within the framework of the pact. Just a quick technical note, in terms of language, we are primarily, myself and other speakers here will be speaking in English, but just so you know, in case you need it, we have interpretation in Arabic, French, and Spanish. And then also, from a technical point of view, network access can be made easier through the use of a QR code, so which you can simply scan. I think that will come on as well on the screen, and then you can scan it and then follow. So this event is organized under the framework of the Food is Never Waste Coalition, as Mr. Torero eloquently stated in his remarks. And this particular event marks the third instance of the series of events themed Countdown to 2030. So as you know, we are still within the framework of the 2030 agenda, and we have these 5 years before we get to 2030. So it is within this framework that we are organizing this event, and this particular one is the first that we are having in a face-to-face modality. And we are very, very pleased to host this event with the support of partners, including the Global Environment Facility, GEF, ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, the International Center for Advanced Mediterranean Agronomic Studies, CIHAM Bari, Let's Food, the Municipality of Milan, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, the University of Bologna, the Initiative on Climate Action and Nutrition, ICANN, and many, many other partners. It is very, very important, the aspect of partnership, as has been stated in the opening remarks. I believe we are gathered here because we share a common vision. Reducing food and loss and waste is essential, and cities as well as sub-national governments play a pivotal role in accelerating the implementation of this vision. Now, this event aims to generate concrete recommendations and immediate next steps on how we can collectively move from intention to action. So the key words there are action and also partnerships, working together. And together, from FAO's point of view, working with all these partners, our intention is to organize expert consultations on food loss and waste at city level, to then use that as a base for informing policies. And we intend to prepare a policy brief targeting national and sub-national governments, and also to explore funding opportunities and facilitating peer learning on food loss and waste and development of capacities and different aspects, including the measurement. So, as was underscored again by Mr. Torero's comments, coordinated action and an actionable roadmap that strengthens our collective efforts is very, very important. So before any further ado, I also want now to bring our co-organizer on the stage in the person of Ms. Clementine O'Connor, Program Management Officer with the Sustainable Food Systems Division in UNEP. Clementine, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Divine. It's a pleasure to be with all of our partners and FAO, our Food is Never Waste Coalition co-lead today. Just asking the team if I could have the pointer, please, for the slides. Thank you. As we will hear today, halving food waste is a triple opportunity to tackle unacceptable hunger, to reduce costs in local governments and households, and to mitigate climate change. Thank you very much, Dodenza. By keeping food out of landfill, we can reduce up to 7% of global methane emissions, a decisive step towards achieving our climate and sustainable development goals. Cutting methane emissions is critical because methane is over 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat in the short term, making it one of the fastest and most effective ways to slow global bombing and to protect vulnerable communities. UNEP's Food Waste Index report reaffirms that food waste is a global problem with significant household food waste generation in nearly every country and city that have measured it around the world. You can see here that the data does not show a correlation to country income group. This is a global challenge, and we are committed with our partners here today to take action and to support countries in addressing this around the world. Since 2021, when the first Food Waste Index report was published, we have been providing capacity building through regional food waste working groups on four evidence-based solutions: public-private partnerships, consumer behavior change programs, circular food systems, and data and policy. UNEP is proud to have supported the development of Brazil Sem Desperdício, Brazil's new food waste pact that began with an initial feasibility study that we launched 4 years ago, up into the public launch that took place in São Paulo a week ago. So this is the beginning of Brazil's journey on this topic. At city level, we can highlight our work in Brazil, collecting data in 4 cities, including São Paulo and Osasco, who are here today to develop with the Ministry of Environment Brazil's food waste baseline study. You will see a spotlight here on Rio, where fully 62% of household waste was shown to be food in our data collection there in 2023, which underlines the opportunity to save households and local governments' costs, to strengthen food security, to relieve pressure on landfills, and to cut methane emissions. And we are excited to continue to provide structured support to cities through the Alimenta Cidades program. Today, if my slide wants to go forward, there we go. I am delighted to introduce the Food Waste Breakthrough, which we will officially launch at COP30 in Belém with the UN climate champions and a lot of the fantastic partners here today. This breakthrough is a 5-year plan to mobilize cities and food businesses to cut food waste in half. As part of the Food Waste Breakthrough Global Roadmap, UNEP is committed to supporting cities under 3 key pillars: capacity building, data and policy, and finance and implementation, to work with national and subnational governments to get the data right through providing food waste measurement training, helping cities to establish strong baselines and to track impact, and together with partners to develop a global innovation challenge to provide critical seed funding for cities that are ready to take action on food waste prevention and circular food systems. Message today is simple. We cannot meet global climate and food security targets without tackling food waste, and cities are at the heart of the solution. So thanks a lot for your attention, and it is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gustavo Hopino, who will moderate the first panel on city-level experiences, shifting from practice to transformative change. Gustavo is a leading global expert on food loss and waste that we've had the pleasure to work with for a very long time. He's based at Embrapa, the Brazilian agri-research organization. He is a co-founder of the Pact Against Hunger in Brazil, a steering committee member of Brazil's Food Bank Network, and he is an active voice in the promotion of healthy and sustainable eating. So please join me in welcoming Gustavo to the stage.
Thanks, Clementine. Always great to meet you and all this amazing audience this morning. So good morning, everyone. Buongiorno a tutti. It's a real pleasure to be here in Milan to exchange experiences with 5 amazing cities that are leading local initiatives to reduce food waste. In fact, food and waste should never walk together. As we have listened here yesterday, especially during Carlo Petrini's amazing talk, food is more than just nutrition. It's a powerful tool for human development in our cities. It's culture, entrepreneurship, connection between people, and above all, peace and dignity. Before we start, just a quick note from Brazil. Clementine has already mentioned that we have 2 new initiatives led by the Brazilian government, especially the Ministry of Social Development, that's here well represented by my colleagues Gisele Bortolini and Claudia Boca. The new Brazilian National Food Losses and Waste Mitigation Strategy, and the Feeding and Cities National Strategies. And one of the key priorities at this new strategy that involves local governments is food waste mitigation. Given our country's size, regional diversity, and potential to scale successful local actions, this local engagement is essential. Brazil has over 5,500 municipalities, and for us it is imperative to strengthen connections between different levels of governments, to leverage the capacity of cities to reduce food waste, and even contribute to the political will dimension. The good news is that 19 Brazilian cities are about to begin implementing local food waste reduction plans under this Feeding Cities strategy. In Portuguese, is Alimenta Cidades. And it's quite interesting. By the way, FAO just published a new case study about it. You can Google Feeding Cities Brazil at FAO website, and you'll find these case studies. Many other cities are already advancing circular food systems through initiatives such as redistributing surplus food to food banks and community kitchens, and composting organic waste for urban gardens. So let's move to today's session. We'll hear from 5 inspiring cities across different continents, a true reflection of global diversity, showing how local action-oriented policies can drive worldwide progress in food waste reduction. They will share success stories in addressing food losses and waste and reflect on the following questions. What were the key enablers and barriers? How can national governments and the global community support cities in transitioning from isolated practices to transformative change? And finally, how these cities can amplify results beyond the local level. First, I would like to welcome Kassim Nabugali, Mayor of Mbale City in Uganda. Welcome, Kassim. Kassim is a big defender of sustainable food systems, and he has a wide experience in public management. A warm welcome to Mr. Kassim Nabugali, that came all the way from Mbale. Always great to see these African nations here well represented. So, Kassim, in your local context, there are many opportunities to strengthen short food supply chains through the organization of local markets. Everybody should come, right? Okay, better. It's better this way. So next, I would like to welcome, a warm welcome to Audrey Pulvar, the Deputy Mayor of Paris, that was here yesterday, and we are glad to have her here again. She's a big defender of women's rights and the environment, and we share in common a passion for journalism. She also had a brilliant career in journalism, and she's the author of several books. Great to have her here with us. A warm welcome also to Mr. Jalal Abu Al-Ghanem, Director of the Central Market at the Greater Amman Municipality. Thanks for coming, Jalal. Jalal is an engineer with extensive experience in supply chain optimization. A warm welcome also to our colleague Pornprom Vic, advisor to the governor of Bangkok. He's a strong advocate of the green economy. After his speech, he must leave because he has a travel, but I'm really glad that you find time to be with us here today. Last but not least, a warm welcome to my colleague Carolina Chica, Director of Rural Economy and Food Supply at the Secretariat of Economic Development from the city of Bogota. Great, so let's start with Kassim. Oh no, I'm sorry. We'll start with Kassim. So, Mr. Kassim, in your local context, there are many opportunities to strengthen short food supply chains through the organization of local markets. Could you tell us how Mbale is advancing on food loss and waste mitigation?
Thank you. Good morning to all of us. I'm glad that we're here talking about food loss and sharing experiences. And like we've all heard from the previous speakers, it is very critical that this is some area that had been ignored, and it needs a lot of attention. Mbale State specifically, we started this journey through introduction of innovation with infrastructure and then behavioral changes. This, first of all, was an issue because previously, the way our food vendors would bring out this is through putting things on the floor, selling to the customers. Remember, there are issues with the consumers looking at that. There are also cultural attitudes towards certain things, like this, the way it has been done previously. So they are really looking at the cultural way of doing it. And then those who are consuming, over time, things have been changing. So our focus had to so much focus on issues of infrastructure and then attitude change. A standout success was with AfriFood Links when we started the initiative of creating change campaign within our city markets. Our city markets are the main areas where most people buy this food. So we embarked on a campaign that focused on creating infrastructure that is not only making food easy to access, but also putting in mind the hygiene and then the preservation. Because most of our markets mainly deal in fresh foods, basically horticultural products. So that meant that if they are not properly displayed, the consumers will not buy them. And then within a period of 2, 3, 4 days, they go bad. That means you just go and throw away. Then throwing away has an element of hygiene, but also solid waste, and then all the associated diseases, because all these attract flies that eventually go back to where people are, and then it affected the way of living. Of course, you have to spend a lot of in health, then managing the waste and all that. So our turnaround point is when we embarked on the campaign of mobilizing the market vendors, the consumers, and state officials. That we all need to have this in our mind and then move away from just an issue of awareness to action. This is how we have created hygiene within those markets, so that the people can consume these products and buy them, but also made the market vendors realize that if you overstuff stock and they are not bought within the time specifics, because you go to the mountains and buy a lot of these products, you stock, they are not bought, then you have to dispose them within the environment. That affects the environment, that brings hygiene issues, and that thought were not good. So through community dialogues, radio talk shows, market sensitization drives, the campaign spotlighted the economic and environmental costs of food waste. Vendors were trained to start sorting all this into the biodegradable that can again be sorted into the decompost and boosted the urban agriculture. So in other words, whatever we are now sorting that is biodegradable can now be again used to boost urban agriculture, and that is now currently what is happening. It also meant that the amount of money the city is spending in managing the waste can now be invested elsewhere, because then we are not haphazardly spreading within the city. That was addressed. It also meant that the people who didn't realize that as you do all this, attracting flies and all those things that we eventually go to our food, is now reducing the cost on health. That was also being addressed. And in a way, is what has now made the vendors, the food vendors, the political leaders, the residents within the community now realize the value of us being able to handle this nicely. You're addressing a number of things as you do that. This has also reduced in terms of food loss, that you buy so much that is not bought, and therefore you make losses. So again, financially, you are reducing on the amounts that will actually go, because you have bought so much that has not been bought off. So I thought the campaign that we embarked on with our partners, the Food Links and others, have really helped the city, and currently as we talk, I think you'll now go to our market, and those ones who are going to consume, they buy with one heart. Remember, we have issues of cold rooms here. It therefore means that if you buy so much, you'll not keep them for so long. So in a way, we've improved the hygiene within the markets, and I think as we move, there are also attitude changes, because within this food governance, we have had a buy-in from the people who are dealing in that, and then the communities who are involved. So this has helped the city reduce on unnecessary costs that would have gone into managing the solid waste within the city, but also improved on the hygiene. And in a way, we've also encouraged them to avoid issues of overstocking. Because when you buy so much and it is not taken, you make a very big loss. So in a way, I think our vendors and market people have now had a buy-in. You will now go to our markets. The infrastructure has been improved. We no longer display their products, and these are horticultural products that are fresh foods on the floor, but instead we now have what? Stalls that are properly made, and therefore it has encouraged our people to reduce on their losses in terms of food. So through these community dialogues, like I've said, combined with the infrastructure improvements and upgrades, the vendor capacity building campaigns have helped now change public attitudes, reduce on spoilage, lay groundwork for the circular food economy. We therefore reduced the consumer and also encourage him to focus more on the hygiene, but also reduce on the losses. Move away from intentions to actions, that we are not just thinking about something, but we know that this must do, we must action, and they are exactly seeing the results coming out. This is how the city has managed to reduce on the food loss within Mbale city. The vendors, of course, were trained, like I said, on reduction of waste through practices like stocking less, and then displaying to attract the people to buy. So in the process, and in doing so, those who would overstock and then lose out by pouring away have realized that, yes, we need to do that. But maybe as we go along, you realize that there will be need for us to now focus on cold rooms to ensure that there's preservation for at least a period of time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cassim. So in a nutshell, the organization of local markets generates income for smallholders, decreases losses in the field, and increases the quality of healthy foods for consumers, and even the food safety, as you have mentioned. So now moving to the beautiful city of Paris. Welcome again, Audrey.
Thank you.
Paris has a very inspiring food strategy, especially regarding sustainable school meals. Could you share with us the city's vision for advancing sustainable canteens and public catering? Thanks.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you very much. As I explained yesterday, and my apology if some of you heard me yesterday and will hear the same today. For years, as all of us here, for years, Paris has implemented and advocated for a systemic policy about agriculture and food system in order to have to build and to support a more resilient, a more sustainable agricultural system and food system, and also in order to make sustainable, organic, sustainable and tasty food, because we need to never forget flavors and taste. We advocate and we implement policies in order to make this food affordable for anyone in Paris, no matter your incomes or your cultural habits or the place where you live in the city. You must have the availability. That's what we're working on, to have the choice between several groceries or places, solidaritarian places, affordable places where you can find sustainable organic food. We're trying to do it mainly coming from 250 kilometers around Paris and at a national scale. But one of our goals is really to support the local and the national nets of sustainable agriculture and food. In our sustainable food plans, we have very high standards and high goals about the development of the supply chain of sustainable and organic food, but also about reducing the food waste. Within our goals, we have the goal of reducing from by 2027 our food waste by 50% in the collective caterings, and to build zero waste collective catering system, and zero waste, especially about bio-organic remains or waste. In order to reach this goal, we have several tools. For example, the fact that we annually train our teams and teach our consumers, our eaters, about avoiding waste, about using all the pieces and all the remains in order to refabricate other meals. We absolutely avoid, and I would say we ban, we not only avoid, but we ban ultra-processed food in our collective catering system. So the fact that we support local, sustainable and organic food, local, sustainable and organic supply chain, homemade food, and that we banned ultra-processed food, it's a first lever in order to reduce food waste. So we train our teams, we teach our consumers, our eaters, we provide, we deploy tools as sorting tables, scales in order to weigh the waste, little things like the fact that our consumers, our eaters have the choice between 3 sizes of plates if they are a bit hungry, very hungry, or very, very hungry, you know. And if they think they are not really hungry, so they take a small size, they can ask for a second one if it's not enough. The same for the bread, for example. We don't, when you garnish your tray in our collective catering, you are not allowed to take as much bread as you want in the first place. You take one piece of bread, and if you want another one, you have to stand up, to walk a bit, and to take the second piece of bread. Those are small things, but they are really efficient in reducing the food waste, the daily food waste. And obviously, we have a lot of other ways and means in order to reduce food waste at a more general scale. You know, I won't teach you anything if I say that avoiding food waste is not only a matter of environment and providing more food to more people. It's also an issue of good management. And if we want to be able to provide more quality, sustainable food to our consumers, we need to avoid food waste in order to have more money to buy better food and better vegetables, etc. I will finish with just one point. In France, at a national scale, food waste annually is about 60 billions. It's a value of 60 billions of euros of food waste at a national scale. And if we could avoid this waste, we also could reduce by 3% our global greenhouse gas emissions. So this is a really important issue. And I think my time is over.
Thanks a lot, Audrey. I would like just to highlight one point from your speech. People will eat healthy if it tastes good, as you said. So it's really important, the capacity building for the ones involved in the preparation of foods at public catering in the cities. Great. So now let's move to Jordan. We are glad to have here with us Mr. Jalal Abu Al-Ghanem. Welcome again, Jalal. Central markets like Amman's handle huge volumes of fresh produce every day. Could you tell us about the strategies being implemented to minimize food waste in this context? Thanks.
Thank you. يشرفني كثيراً أن أمثل أمانة عمان الكبرى في هذا المنتدى المهم بصفتي مديراً للسوق المركزي في عمان. أستفيد من خبراتي الميدانية حيث يشكل هدر وفقدان الغذاء تحدياً مستمراً في جميع مراحل سلسلة التوريد. تنبع هذه المشكلة من ضعف التنسيق الزراعي وتقنيات الحصاد القديمة ومواد التغليف غير المناسبة والنقل لمسافات طويلة في مركبات غير مبردة مما يسهم في خسائر فادحة في الفاكهة والخضروات.
Excuse me, Jalal, just a minute, because some people will need the translation advices. They are just taking it. And then you can continue. Thanks for your understanding. Just 1 minute. Thanks.
Okay.
We are just waiting for some people to get their translation advices, and I need mine as well. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, I can't understand. This is a great thing, in fact, because we have people here from different backgrounds and cultures. So please, continue. The floor is yours again. Thanks.
يشرفني كثيراً أن أمثل أمانة عمان الكبرى في هذا المنتدى المهم بصفتي مديراً للسوق المركزي في عمان. أستفيد من خبراتي الميدانية حيث يشكل هدر وفقد الغذاء تحدياً مستمراً في جميع مراحل سلسلة التوريد. تنبع هذه المشكلات من ضعف التنسيق الزراعي وتقنيات الحصاد القديمة ومواد التغليف غير المناسبة والنقل لمسافات طويلة في مركبات غير مبردة مما يسهم في خسائر فادحة في الفواكه والخضروات قبل وصولها إلى المستهلك. إضافة إلى ذلك لا يزال الهدر يشكل مصدراً قلقاً على مستوى السوق والمستهلك إدراكاً لخطورة هذه القضية. جعلنا من هدر الطعام وفقد الغذاء من أهم أولوياتنا، وقد وضعنا خطة عمل للحد من هدر الطعام في عمان بمشاركة واسعة من الجهات المعنية مستلهمين تجربة بلدية ميلانو. ونعمل حالياً على تعزيز هياكل الحوكمة المتعلقة بفقد الطعام وهدره في مدينتنا. هناك الكثير مما يجب القيام به من حيث إنشاء مراكز فرز وإعادة تدوير في مواقع الإنتاج وداخل السوق المركزي وتحسين التغليف وإنشاء بنك عبوات بلاستيكية موحد وإعادة تدويرها وتحسين التخزين المبرد ونقل وتحويل النفايات إلى طاقة وأسمدة وتطوير أنظمة رقمية لتتبع الخسائر. تعكس هذه الاستراتيجية المتكاملة تحولاً جذرياً في كيفية تعامل أمانة عمان الكبرى مع الفاقد من الغذاء وهدره. كما نشارك بفعاليات في برنامج للتعلم من الأقران وتبادل الخبرات مع مدن أخرى في الأردن وتونس. من أبرز مبادراتنا الواعدة تحويل النفايات الطعام إلى سماد. نجمع حوالي 3 طن من نفايات البستنة يومياً ونقلها إلى مكب نفايات الغباوي لاستخدامها في إنتاج الأسمدة العضوية. ورغم بساطتها تمثل الخطوة بداية لنهج أكثر استدامة لإدارة النفايات العضوية. تعكس هذه الاستراتيجية المتكاملة تحولاً جذرياً في كيفية تعامل أمانة عمان الكبرى مع فاقد الغذاء وهدره. وأود أن أؤكد على 3 نقاط رئيسية مهمة في عمان. نرى السوق المركزي مدخلاً استراتيجياً لمعالجة هدر وفقد الغذاء بشكل شامل بمشاركة المنتجين والتجار والمستهلكين على حد سواء. التحويل أمر بالغ الأهمية. يجب علينا بناء القدرة على حشد الموارد من القطاعين العام والخاص. دعم المنظمات الدولية أساسي لا سيما لتحديد فرص التمويل التي قد لا نعرفها حالياً والوصول إليها. الشراكة هي الأساس، تتطلب معالجة هدر وفقد الغذاء، شراكات قوية على مستوى المدينة ومستوى الوطني، وشعوراً مشتركاً بالمسؤولية داخل المجتمع المحلي. التعلم بين الأقران يعد التبادل مع المدن الأخرى أمراً أساسياً لتعزيز الالتزام السياسي والاهتمام التقني، وقد كان من المهم بالنسبة لعمان تبادل الخبرات مع مدنها الأخرى في الأردن ومع مدن تونس ومع بلدية ميلانو. شكراً لكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thanks a lot, Jalal, for your amazing contribution. You have touched on a very relevant point, which makes me remember that food waste is not just a matter of changing consumer behavior. We have to work along the entire food supply chain from farm to fork. We in the Global South, the food chain is also quite long. Food travels for long distance without appropriate packaging, and it always starts with the soil health, as you have mentioned. Thanks. So now let's move to the beautiful city of Bangkok, a city world famous for its incredible foods. So thanks for being here, Porn Prom Vic. Welcome again. I would like to hear from you the success story from Bangkok's experience in tackling food losses and waste, especially when it comes to better waste management at the city level.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So waste is a big issue in Bangkok. So every day we have around 9,000 tons in Bangkok for a city of maybe 7 or 8 million people, and 50% of that is food waste. And if you know about Thai food, you know the green curry, tom yam goong is very greasy, oily, very difficult to manage. So if you manage to mix it all together with the other dry waste, recyclables, everything is all ruined, and we have to go to landfill. So we try really hard to, don't have to separate too much, not have to 8 things, 9 things, just do 2, wet and dry. Separate the wet food out first, and then the dry, there's economic factor involved, recyclables, there are informal sectors who help to separate further. So what do? So in the past, we have really pushed for waste separation, but it was more like a voluntary campaign. So if you separate the good waste, food waste, you are a good person, you like the environment. I mean, there's some effects, but we thought it was not enough. So voluntary measures, we found that is not enough to trigger behavioral change. So what we have done since the governor have come to office 3 years ago is to start pushing for something more than just voluntary measures. So we settle upon what we call economic measure. So how does that work for us? So let's divide into 2 groups. One is the individual households, like our house single homes. The other one is for big businesses. So for individual households, we collect waste collection fee already, but very, very cheap. 20 baht per month, so 50 cents per month. Now we have managed to increase by 3 times, still very cheap, but more expensive than before. So now we're charging 60 baht per month for every household for the waste collection fee. But if you join our waste separation program and you sign up through our application, you can get reduction back down to 20 baht. So this is an incentive for people to start separating waste. It's more than just voluntary. And if you don't want to separate the waste, you just pay to us more. We're very happy to take the money to go invest in other things. But if you separate the food waste, then you get the reduction. So now we have nearly 900,000 people that have joined the campaign. So around 25% of all the households in Bangkok have joined. So when you register, then we add the sticker to your house. Then because you register online, we know all the points, geolocations of each household. So each district offices, Bangkok is divided into 50 districts. They can assign their separate cars to go and pick up the food waste from you. At the downstream, we have the compost facilities, biogas ready. And once we have the compost, we go and donate back to the people who have registered. So ensure that it's a full loop cycle. So this is the household. And it's been going, we just started in October when the law was in place. So now we're in process of building and seeing what we can improve on. The second one is big businesses. So they used to pay quite cheap too. But we really increase it by a lot, 4 times. And they used to pay a flat rate. So it doesn't matter how much waste you generate or don't generate, you pay the same price. Now we changed the system to a pay-as-you-throw. So the more unit that you throw away to Bangkok, to the city that we have to collect, the more you have to pay to us. So when we first passed the law, I get so many calls from central markets to department stores, hotels, saying, this is ridiculous. Why are you forcing us to pay? But then we say, then you utilize your waste. You don't have to give it to us as waste. So because we collect waste from their institutions every day, we know how much it weighs. So if you manage to reduce the amount of waste per day, then you can reduce the amount you have to pay to the city as well. So now they come with zero waste plan, food waste management plan. Like the biggest shopping mall in Bangkok set a meeting with me to say, okay, this is what they're gonna do with their food waste. They're gonna separate it. They're investing a huge compost on-site machine that can compost within 24 hours. They're separating and sending it to this private company that will turn into animal feed. So each of the big shopping malls, supermarkets, hotels now have their own food waste campaign because we kind of force them to indirectly now because they don't want to pay a lot to us. So let's say I want to give you an example of a big shopping mall. They used to have 15 tons a day of waste. Now it's only 10 tons because they managed to separate every day 5 tons of food waste and utilizing it. Their machines, that they're going to buy more machines to have in their department store. So this is something that we really want to use economic measure to push for individual households, big institutions to separate their food waste. But this economic measure for us as a strategy is only a transition period. In the future, we want to have a more legal measure in place. For example, in the households, if you don't separate the waste, we don't want to go and collect your waste anymore. But if we do it right now, we don't have the behavioral change yet. So we're using economic measure to do so. So I think so far so good. And in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, we will have to go and assess again that today 9,000 tons a day will reduce to 8,500 tons a day, 8,000 tons a day, and then we can call it a success. But for now, it's a trial and error method, and we hope to be able to share good news to you in the future.
Great point, Prom. So appropriate waste separation, it's very important because it generates opportunity to foster circular urban food systems. We can increase the use of this compost for school gardens, urban gardens, and so on. And the involvement of citizens is a priority as well. Thanks. So finally, last but not least, I'm delighted to welcome Carolina Chica from the beautiful and colorful city of Bangkok, also very biodiverse capital of Colombia. Carolina, could you highlight with us which best practice your city is put in practice to reduce food waste, especially when it comes to fostering short food supply chains and farmers markets?
Gustavo, thank you so much, and thank you to the organizers. As we have already heard during these last 2 days, food waste is not only an ethical and environmental issue, it is also a clear indicator of inefficiencies within our supply systems. And these inefficiencies appear at every stage, from poor planning of production calendars, to food collection, processing, distribution logistics, and finally, consumption. In Bogota, the capital city of Colombia, the complexity of the food system is reflected in several challenges. Among them, fragmented supply chains and the volatility of agricultural prices. Each year, more than 1.3 million tons of food are wasted in Bogota, even as over 1 million people suffers from food insecurity. Faced with this reality, Bogota has made a strong commitment to transforming its food system. And one notable example is the farmers' market of Bogota. Over the past year, this initiative has connected 600 farmers with urban consumers. And thanks to Farmers Market of Bogota, monthly sales now exceed 300,000 US dollars. And through this channel, 700 of tons of food are traded each year, attracting around 200,000 visitors, which are gonna be new consumers of fresh food and healthy and tasty food. And another innovative action is the metropolitan strategy called We Buy Your Harvest, which our city joined right this year. This initiative created a public fund to help manage small farmers' crops. For example, last month, we purchased surplus potatoes directly from small farmers, preventing total crop losses due to lack of market access, originated in a dramatic fall in prices. The food acquired through this fund is then distributed to social foundations or charities, benefiting vulnerable people while ensuring fair incomes for rural families. This approach not only reduces losses at the source, but also builds a bridge of solidarity between the countryside and the city. The experiences of our farmers' markets and We Buy Your Harvest show that it's possible to track and reduce inefficiencies in our food systems through concrete collaborative actions. I will highlight that both initiatives are grounded in two essential values: awareness and solidarity. The same values that, as Carlo Petrini reminded us yesterday, sustain every food system. Looking ahead, the global loss and waste roadmap must consider the development of technological and logistic tools to correct inefficiencies where the market has failed or simply does not function. This is central to managing food surpluses and addressing inequality through solidarity. We must also strengthen community of practice, spaces that bring together academia, public institutions, private actors to identify problems, collect data, design solutions, and evaluate results. Without a critical mass of people aware of this problem, we cannot move forward. In short, Bogota is advancing towards a fairer and more resilient food system through collaborative initiatives. These programs use solidarity and citizen engagement to reduce inefficiencies and the loss of food. Thank you.
Thanks, Carolina. You mentioned what I consider to be a social innovation, which is public procurement targeted to generate market for surplus production among smallholders. This is very interesting, and it can be replicated in other contexts in other cities. And of course, farmers markets, organizing farmers markets is much more about than creating income for smallholders. It's about protecting our culture, the local foods. Thanks a lot. So a big hand of applause for Carolina and all speakers that were here with us this morning. It was a beautiful discussion. I guess we can now move to the next panel, the second one. So thanks a lot, everyone. The second panel is Scaling Up the Food Losses and Waste Agenda, Partners' Perspectives, to be moderated by Luison Lancon, co-founder of Let's Food. Thanks a lot again.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers here that shared their very inspiring experiences. So now we are moving to the second panel, which aims at discussing about how partners can support cities in tackling food loss and waste, coming from the private sector, funding partners, the civil society as well, the academia. So before I invite our speaker to join me, let me just open the discussion by recalling the objective of this roundtable, which is really identify concrete actions that could be integrated into the global roadmap of the Food is Never Waste Coalition, advancing our collective efforts to combat food loss and waste. I'd like to put on the practical actions that were mentioned earlier by Divine and Clementine, including the organization of an expert consultation, the development of a policy brief, the identification of strategic funding opportunities, the advancement of the Food Waste Breakthrough Initiative, the facilitation of peer learning, and the delivery of training on food loss and waste measurement and planning. So each of these really represent a meaningful step towards transformative change in how we address food loss and waste at city level. At Let's Food, we are a French-based organization supporting cities for the past 10 years on building sustainable food policies. Food loss and waste reduction is one of the major issues that is shared by all cities, all territories that we've been collaborating with. In recent years, we've worked closely with municipalities in Jordan, also in Tunisia, and we have witnessed a strong motivation from local governments to take actions. We're also reflecting in the rich exchanges we had in this previous panel. However, we identified two key gaps that remain clear to us. The first one is that cities often lack of a precise understanding of what is food loss and waste, and lack of data to understand where the food loss and waste actually occurs along the value chain. The second one, and perhaps most importantly, there is a lack of access to and understanding of funding opportunities. Municipal budgets, as you know, are quite constrained, and many cities lack of internal capacity to identify and secure external fundings. They really need tailored support to translate action plans into concrete projects. But of course, also let's not forget the capacity building needed to efficiently use the funding when secured. So this brings us perfectly to today's discussion. Conversation, as I said, with a diverse panel of partners from civil society, the private sector, academia, and national governments. Together, we are going to explore how to better support the cities in scaling up actions on food loss and waste, both from a technical and crucially a financial perspective. So I would like to invite our five speakers to join me on the stage, and we can start the discussion. It's not working. Okay, now it's working. Thank you very much. So I'm very sorry first because we are a bit behind schedule, so I'm going to be your timekeeper. To start off, I would like to welcome Marta Luca, General Manager of the SNAM Foundation. With over 2 decades of experience across the private and social sector, Marta now leads the Foundation's mission to bridge business, civil society, and institutions for a just transition in Italy. Under her leadership, the Fondazione SNAM has become a key partner in developing social innovation and community-based projects, including initiatives on food redistribution, education, and sustainable nutrition. Marta, from your perspective, could you tell us how the Fondazione SNAM is helping to build partnership and infrastructure to allow cities and communities to reduce food loss and waste? Also, based on your experience, could you tell us what would be the enablers, priorities that we should collectively focus on the global roadmap? And finally, how do you see the SNAM Foundation and more generally corporate foundation and private sector to contribute to this agenda? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here today to talk about such an important topic at stake. As a SNAM Foundation, we are the corporate foundation of SNAM Group, which is a major and leading energy infrastructure in Europe. The foundation was developed in 2017. First of all, we think it's very important and very relevant. the fact that we are here today sitting at this very table talking with different stakeholders. And this is also reflects the importance that businesses can lead in terms of food loss and food waste and overall, generally speaking, also training awareness to those all actors at stake. As a foundation, we fight poverty in general. In terms of food poverty, we do a lot in terms of food aid, as well as training initiative to NGOs, to volunteers of NGOs, to beneficiaries, and to our employees. SNAM as a group has about 4,000 employees. The role that we act since we were born a few years ago is the role of a bridge. We really like to connect private sector, public sector, universities, different foundations, NGOs, with the local need of the territories. I heard many speakers also before me talking about the importance of listening, identifying the real need, and developing very personalized and specific solution, very concrete solution. And the first concrete solution and support we developed has taken part along the framework of the Milan food policy, and is this very document. You will have more information also later on during the Q&A session. Is the guideline for the development of the food aid apps. Milan is very active in terms of food aid, and together with the support of the Polimi Graduate School of Management, which is the School of Management of the Polytechnic of Milano, we developed these guidelines to support the replication of the food aid hub model, starting from Milano to the different cities in Italy. Overall in Italy, there is an increasing problem in terms of food poverty, as we see at a global level. Another concrete example of the partnership, of the active role that we engage in as a bridge in terms of food poverty, is the CARE project, which was most recently launched. And in a nutshell, the CARE project consists in recuperating food surplus from food canteens in different schools of Milan that are recuperated through electric cargo bikes by an NGOs, and then are redistributed to the NGOs, the local NGOs, and to the beneficiaries in a very timely manner. So those are just two examples of how this kind of bridge connection can take a very active and very concrete role in supporting local needs and local people, because to tackle food poverty really needs a collaboration at all levels. And we strongly believe, and this is my very concluding word, that businesses can act a very important role, not only in funding, which is the old ways, but moving towards a more strategic philanthropy model, which is supporting with company competencies, with time, with supply chain, with communication, by amplifying the social impact and the influence companies can have in supporting and bringing down to very concrete results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. Really shown how this collaboration is actually crucial at city level between private sector, but also civil society and NGOs. Let's now shift to a more city perspective, which lies in the heart of this conversation. Luc Metlerkamp is a senior professional officer at ICLI Africa. So you lead ICLI's African City Food Center, supporting municipalities to integrate food systems into their urban policies. Your work bridges urban governance, social learning, food security. So Luc, the same three questions actually. What practical steps are you as ICLI Africa taking to enable food loss and waste reduction on the ground in cities? From your experience, what should be the guiding principle of our shared global roadmap to help cities to act faster and at scale? And how does ICLI Africa contribute to that roadmap?
Thank you, Lisanne. I think firstly just saying, why are we working on this as a city network? working across cities across Africa, but across our broader global program, this question around reducing food loss and waste is a pain point that we critically get often from cities, saying we need technical and policy support on this. And they're saying this largely across Africa because it's an economic pain point for them. You know, cities are responsible for this, and it's a huge cost. So in that, there's also a huge opportunity, I think, which is that investments into food loss and waste for African cities, and I think it came up from the points of the Mayor of Mbale, can be catalytic because they free up revenue that the city could then spend on other elements of the food system. So in cash-strapped spaces, I think this is a catalytic space, and that's, I think, a big reason for us why addressing this is a really, it makes sense in unlocking a whole system of investment the city can then make across the broader food system. So we've been working with FAO, the EU, through the kind of Chorizo project and across a range of other places and processes and programs, both within Africa but also globally, documenting good practices around food loss and waste, building circular economy handbooks, a lot of work across our African and European work, supporting city-to-city exchanges. So along this notion that cities really learn best from each other, and how can we support cities to be connecting with the initiatives that they're all taking. Forming city interest groups has also been another kind of focus area around food services, schools, restaurants, but also kind of municipal finance and policy. In terms of actions and priorities, just 3 examples perhaps from our African work. The first has been the city of Cape Town, which has developed a zero organic waste to landfill policy. And that was a 15-year strategy that the city developed. And setting that long-term target for the city meant that across that wider ecosystem of action, everybody needed to come on board and find ways that they were going to meet that. And that was connected to a lot of cost. I mean, and I like the example from Bangkok around the financial mechanisms also. But Cape Town developed that zero organic waste to landfill policy, but then they set up business and incubation support for that entire circular economy sector for the city to help the city and all the stakeholders in private sector get there. Through AfriFood Links, we've been working with cities like Kisumu in Kenya, and through partnerships there, developing for the first time also, I think, standards and guidelines for food loss and waste recovery, where they don't yet exist. So what does it mean to do food loss and waste recovery in ways that are dignified, meeting safety standards, and not putting others at risk? So I think that's really, really important as a kind of foundation point on that. Then lastly, on this point of markets, and I think it's one of the real assets that Africa brings, and one of the things we need to safeguard, is that currently 80% of urban food in Africa still moves through fresh produce markets, which is an incredible position to be in. You know, we haven't been supermarketized like the rest of the world has yet. But we also know that, you know, there's a huge amount of food loss and waste taking place in those markets. Lusaka came out at around 38% of food in those markets wasted. So this question of how we deal with the market infrastructures, and I think the examples coming out of Mbale and others are a really key way of us to have these central points over which municipalities have strong mandate, and that there's a key point at which other investors can come in, support investment into those markets, and unlock revenue streams for the municipality in other places. And I think lastly, there's a point that wasn't on my initial schedule, but it came up from the conversation and the presentation from Paris. I think we also need to be really honest and look at the kind of power dynamics and acknowledge that food waste is also big business. You know, and if you're saying that there's $60 billion of food waste taking place in Paris, and in most developed countries, in France, most developed countries, that food waste happens at a consumer level after it's been bought. If we cut that food waste down, we're cutting down retail and agricultural revenues by $60 billion. That's in a single country. So I think we also need to really recognize that this is big business, and there's a lot of incentive for us to continue wasting. How much time have I got?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. So your experience really shows also the importance of technical support and exchange also between cities to support them in tackling food loss and waste. Thank you also for the examples. Turning now to the academic and governance dimension, I'm happy to welcome Professor Andrea Segre. You're a professor in circular economy and sustainable development policies at the University of Bologna. Professor Segre founded Last Minute Market and the Spreco Zero campaign and advises the city of Bologna on urban food policies. So your work combines scientific research, public education, and policy innovation to build systemic responses to waste. Andrea, from your experience, what governance mechanism or tools have proven most effective in empowering cities to prevent and manage food waste? What elements should be integrated into the global agenda, roadmap, to ensure city-level policies are both actionable and measurable? And then finally, how do you think academia and research institutions could contribute to scale up these approaches globally?
Thank you very much. Really a lot of questions to be answered in few seconds, I would say. I'll be very short. Well, we started an academic experience with a spin-off called Last Minute Market some 25 years ago. So, working with students that now are colleagues, professors, with the aim to recover food surpluses to benefit charities, basically. By the way, in Italy, at the time, we had the demand, so poor people, vulnerable people, in a proportion which is very much less with respect to today. Just yesterday, we had the new figures from Istat, 5.7 million people, 10% of Italian population in need, in food poverty. So it's really a lot. Then, so we developed some protocols to ensure the sustainability of this rescue of food in terms of food security. So this is already really an issue that is developed at the worldwide level, but we have some experience that we can share to, let's say, improve the efficiency in the roadmap that you ask, looking in particular from the point of view of sustainability. Okay, solidarity, this is very important in this framework, but we need to be sustainable, and the aim is to reduce food waste. Then I'll share our experience. This is actually my experience because I am the special advisor. This is my title, although voluntary, of the Major of Bologna. And we frame the right to food, we call in Latin, this is part of our culture, ius cibi, as a sort of introduction, a general framework, then to develop food policy to reduce food waste as the first item. Then we had a number of items like food education and the like. And out of this experience, you know, the extraordinary work that is the FAO, the team dedicated to the right of food is dedicated actually to have this right included in the statute, in the charters of the municipalities, is very important because it's a general framework. We have the table of food democracy, and all stakeholders agree that we need to have a right to food and to achieve. It's a general framework. I remember that when we were here in Milan to write the Milan chart back to Expo, our, at the time, president of the council asked to introduce the right to food in the Italian constitution. Quite a difficult exercise, while at the local level is possible. And then, and I'll stop in 1 minute, we developed three actually tools that are available and I think may be useful to a global level to measure food waste, domestic food waste in particular. One is an observatory called Waste Watcher to work on a sample of Italian population, and also we developing now in an international level. And so we measure food waste at per capita level related to 1 week, and then there is a really sound methodology to get a global picture, national level in terms of understanding why the behavior that lead us to waste, to waste in our household. Then we develop another tool, an application, I don't know whether this is the correct word in English, sprecometro, waste meter, to engage people. Each one of us, this is a tool that is very much used for food education in school. Then, last second, to a zero waste campaign, which is actually a public and private campaign that involves institutions in Italy and also private partners and stakeholders. I stop.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks a lot. It's interesting to see how the right to food can be like a global, let's say, umbrella, and then to tackle many different issues among food loss and waste, and how measurement tools are also crucial to really understand where and how much waste do we have in the city. Thanks a lot. Now, building on that, let's bring in the perspective of global financing organizations. So Mia Kallenberg, you work as an environmental specialist at the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, where you are focusing on urban systems, and in particular, the GEF Sustainable Cities Program, with a portfolio of over 30 countries and 90 cities worldwide. Your work focuses on integrating circularity and resilience into urban systems, with food loss and waste emerging as a key entry point for climate and resource efficiency. So Mia, I'd like to ask you, how is GEF supporting cities to address food loss and waste? From your perspective, what priorities do you think are essential to include in our global roadmap? And finally, how GEF and financing institutions can contribute to that roadmap?
Yes, thank you so much, Louison, and thanks to all the previous speakers for sharing your stories. So obviously, I would like to go a bit deeper into the environmental perspective, showing how that ultimately can help creating new partnerships and mobilizing additional financing. So first, to explain where the GEF comes into the picture, we are a financial mechanism for several environmental conventions on climate change, biodiversity, land, and pollution. And what we do is that we provide grants to developing countries for projects that can protect the global environment and promote sustainable development. So within this context, two of the core topics that we work on are food systems and urban development. Obviously, these two are very closely linked as well. We see how food waste is a lot more than just an issue of disposal. It's really a way to close the loop and to reduce the environmental footprint of cities. So as you mentioned, one of our flagship initiatives is the Sustainable Cities program, where local and national governments can receive funding for urban projects. And this funding, as long as it contributes to the environment and its benefits, is quite flexible. We have seen many examples of how it can be used to support urban food systems. There is a project in Johannesburg in South Africa where they're looking at urban farming as a way to improve local food availability and connect small-scale farmers with the broader supply chains, and also connecting them with the Joburg Municipal Market, which I think is the largest fresh produce market in all of Africa. So the project is then, from an environmental perspective, reducing food waste, both through better distribution systems, but also through the creation of a biogas plant that will convert organic waste into biogas, into renewable energy. Then we also have several projects where we work with FAO on food systems, including in Zimbabwe, looking at low-income communities in rural and peri-urban areas, and working with UNEP colleagues as well on reducing food waste and methane emissions in particular. And bear in mind, all of these projects are then supported by donor funding for global environmental benefits. So in terms of next steps and the contribution to the global roadmap for 2026, we would like to continue to expand on this topic, work with partners to really create better research and more evidence to understand the potential for for this issue. We plan to organize an event early next year, inviting leaders and experts to discuss this, and with the aim of publishing a journal article to create knowledge around this. And you know, with a large network that we have over 90 cities worldwide, we really hope that we can help connecting them with urban food initiatives that can support their peer-to-peer learning and technical assistance. The Milan Pact is obviously an amazing example of that. Lastly, I would like to mention that our next funding cycle, GEF 9, is starting in July next year. The entry points for sustainable cities are on circular economy, integrated land use planning, and smart infrastructure. So as you can see, there is definitely potential for projects working with food loss and waste. So we very much welcome proposals from eligible countries and cities in developing countries, and also working with new partners at the global level. In fact, one of our closest partners is the World Bank. They are working to implement a global platform for sustainable cities that is linked to our program. And Shuman here will speak a little bit more about that very soon. So with that, I thank you very much, and I hand it back over to you, Louison. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mia. Thank you for highlighting how Jeff is working to bridge the food and urban agenda and systems. So building on that, I'll turn now to our next speaker, Shui-Man Wang. You are a senior urban specialist at the World Bank, leading program manager for the Global Platform for Sustainable Cities, and driving initiatives on urban nature, low carbon infrastructure, and the circular economy. You also lead investment projects across East Asia, Europe, and Central Asia to spearheaded the World Bank Global Carbon Pricing Program. Shui-Man, could you tell us what step you are currently taking to create an enabling environment for cities to tackle food loss and waste? What priorities you think should be included in the global roadmap, and what steps are you currently taking?
Well, thank you very much. I begin with the World Bank, of course, is a financial institution, but like we like to say, we are also a knowledge bank. What do we mean, knowledge bank? Two fronts. The first is that the World Bank also finances policy reforms, regulations. Some of you have mentioned that you want to change the regulations. It's a very important part also for the World Bank to finance, to support cities around the world. And second part is about project financing. And also the idea is that as a knowledge bank, is that how we translate the ideas, good practice in other cities. We have heard in Bangkok, in Bogota, in others, that how we like to say cut and paste. Of course, tailor-made to the local context, good practice, and incorporate into project financing in other countries. And I'm going to actually, in fact, mention what we have learned from Paris, and this, the learning that how we have translated into actually real practical projects. So that's the overall context, and also thanks to Jeff, we have this global sustainable city programs, and this program is very unique in the sense it has two tracks. There's a global platform that's in knowledge, exactly like a knowledge bank, supporting the policy, supporting the good practice, incorporating into project financing, and then under which the global platform we have countries and cities, and to actually do projects, they receive funding from the GF, as well as if it's linked to the multilateral development bank, it's also co-financed. So we were much larger scale. The whole idea is that you have good practice, good ideas, and good vision. How this would happen? We just talk. It will not be sufficient. It needs to finance to translate into reality. And that's what I like to give you examples, that under the global platform, we have 3 pillars, resilience, and urban nature, which we have learned so much from Paris, because I also live in Paris. We have seen that how Paris leverage nature to deal with climate resilience. And we also have the built environment. That's where, how to build neighborhood, how to build a street transformation. And then third part is about circularity. And that's also food waste come into that pillar. So what do? We, of course, work with many organizations in terms of raising wellness and knowledge exchange. But one important part, how to integrate into actually projects. For example, we do a lot of urban regeneration projects, new neighborhoods, old neighborhood. That's what we learned from Paris. 2 years ago that we did this change, the learning and change. We took our cities around the world, from Asia, from Latin America, from Africa, you name it, around the world. We visited Paris, one of the neighborhood, to see how actually the neighborhood managed composting, collecting the food waste and composting, how this has been done. And this is a very powerful example. And what we do is that to translate this good practice into urban generation, the developed neighborhood, to finance those activities is a very important part. And also, of course, depends on the size of the city. For some larger cities, for example, cities in China, and even one is a middle-sized city, we're talking about 8 million people, Limbo. And they, in fact, with the World Bank finance, they have built a huge composting factory, plant. The idea is to collect the whole city's food waste to do the composting, and through a much larger scale. But of course, it very much depends on the population, the risk, all this, right? Because you do need to have enough sources of food waste to make that plant efficient. So those are ideas that we are doing. I think that we are, of course, there's a policy reform dialogue, but we also do the downstream investment part. There are excellent ideas, smaller scale, and we have also learned how people use a bicycle linking the different restaurants to collect food waste and to fit into composting. So smaller size, larger size, and that is something that we would like to continue to support, and going forward that we, the knowledge part, as Mia says, we will continue to support, but at the same time, we very much look forward to investing and translating those ideas into real projects and investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raman. Your perspective really brings together infrastructure, governance, the enabling role of international financing. It's interesting to see also how the World Bank can actually have many ways to work with cities. To close our round of interventions, let's hear from the private finance sector, which plays a decisive role in scaling innovation. So Amel Gomesal, you are a Senior Vice President for International Community Relations at Citibank. So now we use our 3 questions, usual questions. So I'm going to ask you from your global perspective, how is Citibank using financial, philanthropic tools to support cities on food loss and waste management? What should be integrated to the global roadmap to emphasize and ensure that solutions are inclusive and sustainable for cities? And lastly, how Citibank can actually contribute to that roadmap?
Thank you. So the City Foundation likes to deploy its philanthropic capital strategically when it comes to huge global issues. So in 2023, we launched the Global Innovation Challenge, which specifically sought innovative solutions to tackling food insecurity. We had $25 million available for 50 NGOs, so it's 500,000 each, for projects that were looking for funding to support piloting or scaling ideas to develop these proof points that they needed to demonstrate why their model worked with key stakeholders. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of what we've seen over the past 2 years. So the first one sought a systemic change approach, and this was in the UK with an organisation called the Felix Project. They identified an opportunity in the supply chain, so the farm to fork process, where they found that in the UK, farmers were incentivized by the government, and this goes back to what Luke was saying earlier around there being an industry around food waste. So instead of food rescue and sending this food to communities who are experiencing food insecurity, this food was being diverted to anaerobic digestion, which definitely has a role in the green economy, but when you have communities in London experiencing food poverty, there is really an opportunity there. So what Felix were able to do is they were able to use the City Foundation funding to provide that incentive to farmers, so basically to replace the government incentive. And it demonstrated to their stakeholders that this model could work. They've been able to rescue food and distribute that through their London-based distribution centres and really support thousands of homes who are experiencing food poverty. The second approach is with a technological solution. So we supported Food Cloud, who are an Irish UK-based NGO and have a digital platform called Foodiverse. So this is a digital platform that allows surplus food to be connected with organizations tackling food insecurity. Our funding enabled them to scale that globally into more diverse markets, such as Kenya, where we've had tremendous amount of success at diverting food to food banks. The third solution was around community empowerment and local solutions. And here we worked in West Timor with an organization called Yayasan Kopanik to work directly with smallholder farmers to reintroduce indigenous agricultural practices and more sustainable methods to build climate resilience, but also reduce crop loss. So that was very critical because you reduce crop loss, you increase the income for that farmer and reduce food waste. Alongside this, we also supported Yayasan Kopanik to educate the farmers on food preservation techniques, such as improved storage, cold storage, or drying techniques. Again, this is reducing food loss. Where food loss is unavoidable, Yayasan Kopanik introduced black soldier fly farming, which I'm sure many of you know, helps to create two possible avenues. So not only does it create with food waste, the larvae turn into fertilizer that the farmers can then sell, so that's an income stream, but it also creates animal feed, so that's another income stream. So I think what's really important here is a common thread throughout is that economic inclusion piece and that economic stream, which is obviously fundamental to the City Foundation. In terms of how we can support the global roadmap, and I would encourage other private sector companies to do the same, is to really share those learnings so we can help scale the initiatives that we funded, attract additional funders for these initiatives, and many other adopt these models, and also influence policy landscape.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, Amel. Very interesting example, so to show that tackling food loss and waste is also an economic opportunity for the food system stakeholders working on the ground. Thanks a lot. So I would like to thank a lot all of you, for this very interesting insight. So please, another round of applause for them. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences. Before I give back the microphone to Divine for the concluding words, we'd like to open the floor for a few questions and comments. It's going to be very short, very sorry for that. So you can raise your hand if you have a comment to make. Maybe just here. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Please, it's 1 minute. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Pius from Pariangan Catholic University in Bandung, Indonesia. So it was very interesting that the issue of food waste is coming from various backgrounds, the government, non-government, business sector, academician, NGOs, even international bank like Citibank. What I want to ask is how to synergize or integrate all of these things, all of these actors. Do you have kind of best practices, for example, from Paris or Bogota or wherever, how to synergize or integrate all of these actors in order to reduce food waste, things like this? Do you have any kind of best practices, perhaps in a specific, for example, like regulation or policies? Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll take one or two others, and then we'll answer all together, if that's okay with you. So we gain a bit of time. I would like to give maybe the microphone here. Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you, great panel. I'm Giulia Bartezzaghi, Director of the Food Sustainability Lab at the Politecnico di Milano, so School of Management. So I will just bring back to your attention to the guidelines for the development of food aid apps, so mentioned by Marta Luca from SNAM Foundation, just in a nutshell. So we are a scientific partner of the initiative from the very beginning. So we coordinated the production of these guidelines that you can also download from the QR code that you can find in the slide here, but also printed copies around. Really brief, the guidelines are meant to unfold the key pillars driving the food aid hub systems, but also are meant to provide guidelines to replicate this system in other cities. First of all, this system managed to recover almost 800 tons of surplus food last year, redistributed to over 130,000 vulnerable people in the city of Milan. And so the underpinning pillars that are driving these systems are, first of all, the multi-hectare governance collaborative model, where public and private stakeholders are engaged through a participatory process. Second, the measurement and monitoring system. So we listened before about the relevance of data, so we coordinate this system together with also a digital platform that provides evidence data to steer decisions and actions. The third pillar, well described in the guidelines, is the logistic model that combines localized and micro-logistics solutions tailored to the specific neighborhoods where the hubs operate, together with an effort to coordinate actions at the broader system level. And finally, the hybridization of food assistance with other welfare services. So going beyond just providing food to people. So thanks, have a look at the guidelines, and happy to receive your feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the QR code shown here gives access to the document. So you can scan it.
Thank you all. I'd like actually, first of all, to thank all speakers for sharing with us their valuable experience. I'd like to share with you, I wrote some notes actually very quickly. I will read them about the journey of Jordan regarding the food loss and waste. As Jordan, as the rest of the world, the food security, achieving food security has become a national priority, actually. Because of that, we are actively participated in the Food Systems Summit in 2021. And we presented our pathway for food system, for the National Food System Transformation Pathway. Accordingly, to implement this pathway, we launched, before establishing actually the Higher Food Security Council, we launched the first National Food Security Strategy and its action plan. It includes many strategic goals. The most important one is a governance and reduction of food loss and waste. Actually, to implement this strategy, the government established the Higher Food Security Council, chaired by the Prime Minister, composed of 9 ministers, and the President of Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the President of Farmer Unions, and many relevant institutions. This council established a very specialized committee, the National Committee for Food Loss and Waste. This committee is responsible for managing all the file of the food loss and waste in Jordan, and which brings together all representatives from all sectors, civil society, private sector, public sector, and also we include recently the Consumers Association, in addition to the municipalities like GAM, the Greater Amman municipality. And we are now working together in this file because the council and the committee taking decision responsible for issuing regulations, and the municipality take the responsibility of them is to implement these regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nada. I'm very sorry for the time constraints. So thanks a lot for your contributions. Maybe just to answer very quickly to the first question, I mean, the objective of the global roadmap is actually to come together and create these synergies. So it's an objective that we have within this work, and it's good that you highlight it here. Thanks a lot again, and we'll wrap up this panel, and I will give back the microphone to Divine. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we are actually out of time, so I will not keep you here and be the barrier preventing you from going to lunch. But I think we've had a very, very successful and engaging and very insightful discussion. Clementine, do you want to come up here for a moment? And since we are partnering in this. So I think it's challenging to summarize all that has been discussed here in even 5 minutes, but I think some key takeaways are that we need strong political will that came out from the examples from Brazil and Jordan and Mbale. The integrated approach actually also was mentioned in the last question that we got following the last panel. And then we also had several challenges were identified, including governance gaps and limited capacity in various areas, including just even assessing and measuring the magnitude of food loss and waste. So our shared commitment, dear partners, is to move forward together and define and implement a global roadmap on food loss and waste under the the Food is Never Waste Coalition. So the key recommendations and commitments that emerged from this discussion, I can summarize them very, very quickly. Development of knowledge products, policy briefs, establishment of effective governance mechanisms, training, capacity building of city officials or other very important stakeholders, systematizing good and also disseminating good practices, and that came very eloquently from the last question we got there, and very, very importantly, promoting peer learning. And none of this can happen if we don't have funding opportunities. And we had the great fortune of having people who deal with these matters of funding from not only Jeff, the World Bank, but also from the Citibank. And those were very, very eloquent pieces of advice on how to move that agenda of identifying and applying funding so that we can make that change that we want to see. Lastly, in my notes here, we also had innovative tools for recovery and other aspects of dealing with this issue. So as a next step, we will summarize what has been discussed here as elements of this global roadmap, and we will then call upon everybody here to work together in implementing this roadmap. From the FAO side and UNEP, we will be coordinating this effort, and we will do that through the Food is Never Waste Coalition, which you are very, very welcome to join. So thank you very much for your attention, and we wish you a very, very successful rest of the meetings here. Thank you. Okay, so well, you can.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite all of the panelists up to the stage, please, for a group photo, if that's okay. Thank you all so much for your interventions.